Fortune 500 consultant, trainer, military veteran, husband and father. Your host, Dr. Aaron Bryant.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of DrBryantSpeaks.com. Our show, of course, is for all those military veterans and families and friends and neighbors out there in the world. My name is Dr. Bryant, also a veteran, master life coach, your professor, entrepreneur, and simply just your humble host that's facilitating another amazing guest today. Now, before I get to our guest speaker, I want to thank everybody who has been downloading the podcast. I got a message from iTunes that we're like breaking records. Apparently, there's just this number of downloads that's just happening in the last month. So that's pretty amazing. I also see on our social media that we're definitely tuning in, listening on YouTube Live. You guys are watching all the banners on Instagram and you're subscribing, you're following. I want to personally say thank you very much. That's amazing. It allows me to feel that what we're doing is actually making a difference and people are paying attention. So that's huge. That is really huge. So I want to say thank you. Now, if you're new to the show, please go to the website, start there, get an idea of the program, go to our YouTube, check it out, and just get involved. You have a chance to provide feedback, you have a chance to provide information, and especially you have the option of providing topics. And that's where we get a lot of our driving conversations. We get people who want to ask questions related to social issues, related to VA issues, transition problems, employment, etc. I even had somebody who just asked me a simple question like, Aaron, why do you say this phrase all the time? It is okay. So we try to be transparent. We research the facts. We get the information out to you. So I want to say thank you. Keep it up and let's keep moving forward. We're here to collaborate. We're here to team up and get the information that is available to all of us, but we're not always aware. And that's one of the reasons why I invited my next guest. And that person is Gail. Now I want to pronounce this right. Is it Soffer?
Soffer.
Soffer. Okay. Now Gail is the executive director of a program. It's called Mindful Veteran Project. And you can actually see her. You see her on this YouTube Live. So if you don't get a chance to actually go on the website, you can be able to get all the information about the program, but we're going to talk more about that later. Gail, say hello to the audience.
I am so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, me too. Likewise. It's interesting because we get an opportunity to find all the programs out there, and not all the programs are available for the average veteran. So getting a chance to find a program that's actually making a difference, where you have somebody who's truly invested, those are the ones we want to get out there up front. And so you taking the time to do this like you do every day, 24/7, is actually pretty amazing. So now that we got everybody wondering more about it, let's back up a second. Why don't you tell the audience about your background and how you came about this program itself?
So I have kind of a dual background in nonprofit management, and I guess you'd call them like wellness modalities, or kind of a holistic way of living a really rich, full life. And a number of years ago, I had just wrapped up being with a nonprofit for a long, long time, was closing things down for them, and was taking a professional development course. Just like, okay, let's see what's out there. What would I like to do next? How current am I with what's going on? And I was kind of courted out of that program to be with a nonprofit that was actually a veteran service organization. And I really didn't know much about the I didn't know anything about the veteran services world. And it was kind of interesting, really hit it off, with the founder and executive director, was being interviewed by a board member. And she said, well, Gail, you have this impressive history of peace initiatives and humanitarian aid. How do you feel about serving the perpetrators of war? And I was actually kind of surprised by the question. I said, well, I
Yeah.
don't feel like veterans are the perpetrators of war. If anything, they're the victims of the war. They're the ones carrying the burden of it. And so who would appreciate more coming all the way home to a place of peace than someone who's been at war? And so I started a few days later with that nonprofit.
I guess they were impressed by your response, right?
And I went 0 to 60 because it had been, international humanitarian aid and peace initiatives. And I was appalled with what I found.
Yeah.
You're right under my nose. I had no idea that I found a population that is unmatched in the world. There's no population anywhere that is killing itself off at the rate of U.S. veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, higher numbers with famine, war, other external situations, but no population is taking its own life at that rate. And I thought, how can that be? First I didn't know anything about it. And then how can that be? Shouldn't there be all these services? Shouldn't there be things that are working? And so I just started digging, and I was reading and, webinars and films and going to all kinds of trainings and everything, just, what's happening, what's working, what's not working. And kind of burnt through a few different veteran service organizations, leaving not all that happily because I just could not be part of what was happening. Let's put it that way, as diplomatically as possible,
Well, I will be the one to say it because I know you have a role and responsibility and you want to be respectful, but I don't have to. So I'm going to say it. The truth and reality is we run, as a veteran, I'm speaking personally, you run across programs and organizations that simply are saying one thing and doing another. They ask for their handout for support, contribution, they go grab all the grants, and then yet you don't see the turnaround results. So let's just be honest. And the truth of the matter is, it's very frustrating, especially as a veteran, again, where you are hoping that they will respond to your email, they will respond to your phone call, or you're expecting them to deliver on what they say, and you don't see the product happening. And it is frustrating, which is, again, why we're doing this show, because your program doesn't necessarily do that. It does not do that. So let's talk about what Mindful Vet Project is about, so that way I can try to channel those listeners over to know that you are legitimate and you care. So let's talk about that.
And that's why, after being part of one thing after another, where it's just like, no. And different extremes from, clinical psychological work to very new age spiritual stuff. And it's just like, not really hitting the target, not honoring veterans, not speaking the language, not, whatever it was like, no, there's so much missing, and seeing people falling through the cracks.
Right.
And I felt it's bad enough to do a bait and switch or to misrepresent in general. But then, especially if you're a nonprofit, it's like really people. But then on top of it, with veterans, there's already been more than enough bait and switch. I'll bet you anything what your recruiter told you was not what you found.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm going to try not to go too far to the left field, because my nonprofit years ago was a program designed to help transition into the military. It's a very unique program. And I did that when I got out was because mainly when I was injured, I was Army. So we call it S1, which is personnel. So while I was recovering from injury, working at the brigade level for personnel, I'm getting these documents from the company level, and it was discharge paperwork. And I'm reading it before I process it to give it to the colonel to sign. And I'm seeing how they were going AWOL, they were upset. And the common denominator was because they were mad because their recruiter lied to them. They were told they're going to get this job. They were told they're going to do this. They were told, and these guys, it was like reflecting anger. And it ended up transitioning and domino effect of poor performance while they were active duty. So it was really sad to see that. So not to, go too far off the mark, but that's important to know because we see it regularly.
And so, I mean, I was just, it was like, I got to this point where, again, I was kind of covering my eyes. It's like, uh-oh, I know what I'm seeing, and I know what I could do about it. I have my nonprofit management background, and I have some things that I could offer that would be really supportive, really empowering, that would honor people from wherever they're coming from, whatever relationship they have to their service. Just addressing the human being and innate skills that we have and helping develop those so that people can proceed with dignity and strength and clarity in their lives, and have informed choice, because that's the most common denominator with the military. Once you sign, you've given away your choice.
Yep. That's
how do you, when you transition to civilian life, how do you become your own commanding officer?
right.
How do you make wise choices? How do you take control over all these things and not be a victim?
Yeah.
So it's like, I know some things that I could offer, and I know how to offer them, and it will be so squeaky clean and so respectful of people's privacy and dignity. How can I not do this? But it's like, yeah, but I also know what it takes to run a nonprofit and to get it up and running, and. So we're a project of community partners. So they're a fiscal sponsor, which I always have to clarify, does not mean they give us money. They do the back office. So they're the legal and the HR and the accounting. They do the stuff that I've done, but this let me be boots on the ground, out delivering the services, connecting with people, forming the groups and the safe environments in which people could start learning some really powerful tools.
Right.
Mindfulness.
Right.
And so, it was like, okay, here we go. And I also didn't wait for the money to be there or to have solid support. So we've always been a volunteer organization. I don't pay myself as founder and executive director. We're all volunteer and very lean and mean operation. So much of what comes in are in-kind services and donations. So it's really real. Everything is genuine. It's from the heart and can have the highest standards, because it's like, hey, if you're going to do this, this is what we're doing. And
absolutely.
and I love it because I don't have to compromise or sell out because it's like, hey, no one's giving us big bucks. I'm not beholden to anyone. If you like what we do and want to support it, yes, it will be impeccably used, but we don't have to play games for the money, because it's volunteer, and it's really from people's experience, and basically saying, hey, this is stuff that has worked for me, that's carried me through all kinds of stuff. It's the real deal. Do you want to try this along with me and with other people?
Right.
And everyone who's working on this can look someone in the eye and say, been there, done that, made it here. Do you want to give this a try? No strings attached.